Welcome to the eCommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, eCommerce Marketing Podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the e-commerce marketing podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest, Alessandro Bogliari, who is the CEO and co-founder of the Influencer Marketing Factory, which is a global influencer marketing agency that helps brands engage with Gen Z and Millennials on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Welcome to the podcast, Alessandro.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining me. I'm really excited to talk to you because, I love talking about influencer marketing, affiliate marketing. It's part of what I do day in, day out with OSI affiliate software. We're constantly, encouraging our customers to engage influencers and affiliates, giving them practical strategies. And so I'm really excited to see, what you can bring to the table, how you can enlighten us on this, huge, growing, I guess you could say industry, really. Influencer marketing is really almost an industry now at this point. So, that's going to be the topic of today, influencer marketing, social commerce, how all of this can fit together to help a e-commerce brand or any e-commerce brand, grow their sales and just achieve more success. But before we do get into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and specifically how you got into what you're doing today?
Absolutely. Yeah, I will try to make it, short. We Italians, so we talk a lot, and make, usually stories longer than supposed to be, but I will try to make it very short. So basically, around maybe 9 years ago, I was doing my master thesis and I had to choose that topic, and that was influencer marketing because I was already, somehow working in the industry. And so I was like, you know what? I noticed that back in the day, a lot of people doing influencer marketing were almost only focusing on the content and on the touch of feel and the style of the person that was behind the camera or on camera, but not many people were looking at how much to pay influencers, how to track things properly, how to look at demographics. So I was like, I was a growth hacker at the time. So I was helping B2B companies in growing their accounts and revenues. And I was like, why don't we get that approach also with influencer marketing? So in my thesis, basically, I came out with an algorithm and a little tool to calculate how much to pay an Instagrammer, specifically in the fashion industry in the United States. So it was based on a lot of data scraping that I did myself. That was the first time that I actually got into not only on the academia side, but I was like, you know what? Influencer marketing can be finally seen, or it should be seen as any other branch of marketing. So if you put money in, you should be able to calculate how much to pay influencers, why to pay them, which one to choose, and so on. So because I started like that, many years passed by then, and after 4 or 5 years, from Europe, I moved to Miami, and now I'm in New York City. But when I moved to Miami, I was like, you know what, I think that it's time for me to start something. And I started an influencer marketing agency called the Influencer Marketing Factory. We've been one of the first, offering TikTok to people, to Sony Music, Universal Music, Warner Music Group, especially for songs. And that's because I was still, my brain was already wired in a way like, if we're looking at influencer marketing, let's look at as, again, I put $1 in, what can I expect from it? So because I learned my way from Instagram and YouTube and creating these little tools, I was like, what is next? And the next big thing was TikTok. So moving forward, basically, I took all these past, I would say, 9 years of knowledge, right? And I was like, it's time to create something that is an agency that only don't look anymore at vanity metrics, but look at data and, that is like, conversion focused and oriented, right? When it comes to that. So I'm trying to make it super short, but this basically started like 9 years ago from academia to having one of the most recognized agencies in the US when it comes to influencer.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, congratulations on the success that you've had in 9 years. That's awesome, and you kind of having the foresight to see where everything was going, with regards to these social media platforms and really just kind of the rise of this whole influencer culture, I guess, if you will. And it's definitely here to stay. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. And so, yeah, it's good to see that there's firms like yours out there that can help brands, navigate through this, because, from a lot of brands, especially older brands that have been around for a longer time, and a little bit more established, you mentioned brands such as, Sony Music Group, things like that, where they're more used to the traditional types of media. They of course try to adjust with the times, but, as we know, in marketing and in technology, things just change so quickly. If you don't really have, an expert either on your team or, that's doing work for you, or an agency that's doing work for you that is constantly on the pulse of all of these changes, then, you're going to get left behind. And so, yeah, it's great to know that, you guys are out there to kind of help, shine some light and guide these companies to the right direction. Where I want to kind of start off our conversation is a little bit different. I usually kind of wait to the kind of end to start this, but I think I want to kind of start off with establishing what I call, I guess you could say, kind of some social proof as to people have heard about influencer marketing. They've, hear about all these influencers. They see these pitches across the social platforms, but, a lot of businesses may still not be convinced. And so where I want to start is I want to see, can you share a case study where influencer marketing has really significantly boosted an e-commerce business, either a business that you've worked with or just one that you're familiar with in general?
Absolutely. We work with many e-commerces, and it's a myth that people say like, oh, it's difficult to track things. It might be a bit more difficult compared to the typical display banners, right? You put $1 in, you can track from, the beginning of the cart to the end, depending if you're like your tracking pixel in place and so on. So it might be a bit more difficult. And later on, I will tell you a bit more also like how to, best practices, right? But I would say that overall nowadays, if you put things properly, you set up them correctly, you can actually really go and look for the ROI of campaigns. So especially in e-commerces, the good thing is that nowadays you can combine brand awareness with conversions. And a couple of examples I can bring you today, it's a couple of clients that we are working on. And I wanted to bring you two examples. One, a big object, like an item, right, that has to be bought that costs thousands of dollars, and then an item that is more portable. Okay. Why am I doing both? Because not a lot of the times there is this idea that e-commerces online can be only for maybe cheap items or something that you buy, maybe during during the evening you want to spend some money, you go on Amazon and you buy a bunch of things that you don't need. Right. Influencer marketing actually can help to influence the others, right? What I say all the time is that anytime that you maybe went to a restaurant or watch a movie, the majority of the times it was your friends or family, right, that were suggesting that to you. Basically, influencers are doing the same. Are people that you trust, right? Are people that maybe are experts in a specific niche, or you can see them as someone that you like, someone that can represent you, someone that are relatable to you. And so one example is spring-free trampolines. Again, like outdoor trampolines that cost thousands of dollars. It's not like a pair of shoes. So what do we do? We say basically we did a couple of things with our influencers. We said, one, how easy it is to build them, because sometimes one of the problems then I buy an item, it's going to be very difficult for me to build it. So we showcase how easy it was for everyone, right? Every type of the everyday Joe to build them in their garden. And then the second was about the emotions, the feelings that you can get from the moment. Especially when some of the parents gifted them to their kids, they did not expect that. So imagine getting on camera the feeling and the emotion of these people, of these kids, having something like that, and they know they're gonna play with that, for all their life, or at least for a few years for sure. So instead of just being only about the quality, of course, of the the quality of the materials, how easy it is, it's about the emotions. And at the end of the day, whenever you follow an influencer or a content creator, you follow them also for their daily vlogs, their weekly vlogs. And imagine if part of that is also getting the gift for their kids. It's just not about the product, but it's about also the feelings that you can get out of it. And because we were able to track everything, we were able to look at their return on investment, and they were able to sell a lot of items online. Again, we're talking about thousands of dollars. So not something that you just, with impulsivity, like just buy like that, but because you saw everything that is behind the scene, all the emotions, all the feelings, you want to have the same for your family. And that was the connection. And that's why influencer marketing works well. So that is for one big item, I would say. But we also work, for example, fragrances and flavors. And in that case, it was like not only looking at the items per se, but it was like, what is my typical day in life? And how can Pura help me out? Maybe in relax, for example, or I want to get back home from, something stressful, and then I can, just get back to my, apartment and having this fragrance, that can calm me. Or, I want to prepare a dinner with friends. I'm going to choose a specific fragrance. So with influencers all the time, it's like, no matter what you're selling, it's not just about a product. It's about how you're able to storytell that, right? Tell a story behind the product. So in that case, for example, the call to action was to bring the people to have, I think, either a discount on the website or a subscription model. And thanks to influencers, we can always push like promo codes, for example. And that not in a, I would say, scripted and super polished, like advertisement you can see maybe on TV. You see real people. That those people can be you, and maybe it's gonna be you, right? Because it's the same family, same couples, the same single people. And because of that, you recognize yourself in these other people, and they're gonna be like, you know what? I think that this item, this diffuser could be fantastic in my living room. And that's why it works. Again, it goes behind and beyond the products. It's about what it means for you during, living your daily life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing those two case studies. And I'm glad you kind of broke it down into the company that had the larger product down to the smaller one. And as you can see, in both cases, it works exactly. It's applicable in both cases, influencer marketing, from a large purchase item like a trampoline, a backyard trampoline, to a small, essential oil diffuser. I mean, the bottom line, and I think one of the main things I think resonates that you mentioned is that people are kind of looking at these influencers almost as their friends, or family members, because they trust them. And the good influencers are the ones that kind of pull in their audience into almost their own family. They're sharing as much as they can. They're going through their day-to-day routines. And it's almost like, it's my cousin, that lives, a couple states down, that, is telling me about his life, the different products that he's using. And it's all just kind of seamlessly integrated into his day-to-day activities. So it's almost like, because these days, when we're talking of influencer marketing, there's a lot of influencers out there, and it could be almost overwhelming for a brand to find the right one. And so how do you really identify the right influencer?
It's a good question. You're totally right. These days, there are so many influencers, or people that call themselves influencers. And
right. Exactly.
First of all, we have to be sure, who is an influencer who call themselves influencer. First of all, when it comes to techniques, there are different ones. We, as an agency, we have been doing this for years now. So we have our own databases. We use third parties. We have connections with talent agencies all over the world. But overall, no matter what is your budget, when it comes to e-commerces, I would recommend to try to avoid vanity metrics, so number of followers and number of views. They can help you understanding. I would contact certain influencers that on paper they look good. So certain ranges, they are in a certain geolocation, especially if your e-commerce maybe only ship, for example, like domestic, let's say.
Right.
Or you want to be sure that this is the right niche. You want to be sure that the demographics of the person, of the influencers, is also in line with you. An example is that many times brands, they look at only the influencer, but they do not look at the demographics of their followers. What's the point? What I say all the time is that to sell through an influencer that maybe has certain interest, but their followers has other interests. Or for example, maybe someone is based out of LA, but for some reason, maybe let's say that they were living in New York before, then they moved to LA, but the majority of their followers is still in New York. And it wouldn't make sense, right? So very important to look at demographics. And lastly, that is very crucial when it comes to e-commerces. If you're able to ask historical data to these influencers that you selected, that would be the best. So ask them, for example, can you tell me how many clicks did you generated for that campaign? If it is possible to know. What is the typical click-through? If you ever got your posts whitelisted, right? So boosted through or paid media, what were the results that the clients got? So sometimes they cannot share because of NDAs, and I totally understand that. But if they can share without maybe telling the name of the company that they're working for, but giving you a benchmark, that is going to be very helpful. Because they have really good numbers, but they might not be able to influence the others in buying your product. So basically, you're not only paying them for the content, you're paying them for the distribution and for the influence power. So I would go very in detail and asking them the most possible, the metrics that you care the most. So again, if it is an e-commerce and you have a tracking pixel in place and you know that you can track things, ask them. Or for example, ask them in the past if they ever worked with promo codes, how many were redeemed, for example.
Right.
And usually they should know, right? Because either they know or the clients know, and usually they give them as a feedback. So I would go, and just to finish on this, I would say, take more time and find the right people compared to rush it and then wasting money. So it's better that you select the right ones and you are a bit pickier than just throwing money at the influencers and then realizing that, oh, maybe they were not the right one. And now you have basically wasted money for no reason.
Yeah, that is so true. Your bottom line is you got to do that homework up front because
all the time.
You know the good thing it is, like you said, these days the data is there. You know, you can simple things by asking them, okay, if you were using promo codes in your previous relationships with brands, you know, how many were redeemed, stuff like that. You know, how many purchases were done through the different relationships that you have, and it's available. You're finding those ones that really have the demographics of the customers that you want to tap into, because because there's so many out there. I mean, you don't want to find an influencer. You know, I know your company specializes in Gen Z, the Gen Z demographic and millennials, but let's say you're a company and you're trying to target baby boomers, but then you approach an influencer whose audience are Gen Zers. That's obviously a mismatch, and so if you don't do your due diligence and take a look at that, then obviously that influencer is not going to be the right one for you. Now, another thing, let's say we have some businesses that are listening, they're kind of sold on this, they want to get started, and but their budget is limited. There's a lot of businesses out there that, especially in these days with our economy, and could you share some strategies for small businesses with limited budgets, to be able to, on how they can still leverage influencer marketing?
Absolutely. So even if this goes against my own business, do not use an agency. Don't do it. Like at the beginning, if you are like very small amounts, I would say try to get your hands dirty yourself. And only when you're like really, either you have more budgets or you don't have maybe the time or capacity to run like bigger campaigns, then you can go with an agency. But I would say that at the beginning, it's better if you try that yourself. And again, they're like platforms outside, that some of them they cost maybe some tens of dollars per month. Some others are like 6 digits per year. So it really depends. In that case, if you want to spend 6 digits on a platform, I would say it's better if you go with an agency because at least you can have a white glove service with you. But if you are look for any maybe affordable solutions in terms of influencer marketing platforms, especially for the discovery side. So you can go there. Let's say you're selling, like shoes, for example. You can go and look for any expert that, and then you look for the different filters. Let's say that you find maybe 50 of them that you like, and then the real job starts about negotiation and scope of work. So it's all about, it's not just the selection. You have to start sending them an email. In the email, be very specific, be very clear, be transparent. Do not try to be cheap with influencers when possible, because it's their job. A lot of them, they do that full time. And nowadays things changed. So it's very difficult to find people that are going to work for free or in exchange for discounts. That is not how it works anymore. So I would select them. I would send them an offer based more or less like on the data that you have. At the beginning, if it's your first time, you're going to commit many mistakes, or maybe you didn't look at certain things. But what I would say is that in general, find the one that you like, send them out an email with certain follow-ups, tell them exactly what you have and you want to be on the same page from day one about how much to pay, what to expect, what is the scope of work. The scope of work, when you do an agreement, is very important. You want to be sure that you're going to post in that range of time, by those deadlines. These are the things to say, these are the things not to say. Then it also depends by you, how much do you want to give freedom. We prefer usually to give freedom to the influencer to be themselves, the real themselves and authentic. But maybe you can tell, for example, there are certain keywords that we don't want to be associated with. Talk with them to understand what they want and what you want. The more you talk with the influencers, the more you can understand the psychology behind that. Because at the end of the day, it's not a business to business, it's a people to people type of business, if you think about it, right? So I would say that only once you start doing the first post, you are able to have them sign the contract, having everything under control. You have all the different tracking pixels in place, especially for e-commerce, in this case, listening. Once you have that, what I would recommend it is do the first campaign, let's say 10 different influencers, right? And then you start looking at who is performing and who is not. And the next time you take maybe the top 3 performers, you keep them, and then you find for 7 more. And then basically you optimize. Similar to what you would do for A/B testing in display ads, right? You basically put the same money, same amount on each of them. You do A/B testing for display ads, and then after a while, you remove the ones that are not performing, and you put more money in the one performing in order to decrease your CPI, increase your CTR. It's the same concept also for influencers. And only after the moment, if you are like, we're doing enough money, we're doing enough revenues because of this one, but we don't have people in-house or we need experts, then it's when you get an agency. An agency can help you scale the game 10 times faster because we know the people, we know how much to pay, we have connections, we can go faster. But to finish on this, at the beginning, if you don't have enough budget, why, let's say, give it away, big chunk of it to an agency when you can do it in-house? And then after that, once you understand things, I would say give it to someone else because it's very time consuming. Yeah. People do not realize how time consuming it is, and that's why usually small agreements, logistics, area analysis, all of that then goes to the agency side.
Yeah, that's awesome, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's good to know that from day one, you don't need an agency. You can get into this on your own. You can do the due diligence and establish the relationships, do the negotiation, and manage it. And then I like what you said as far as just like any type of marketing. You got to do testing. And so you don't want to just necessarily just approach one influencer, do one campaign, approach a few, maybe set up 3 different campaigns and see how each one of these influencers, performs over time. And then, based on the results, then who to go double down with.
And you can easily see, for example, with promo codes, if you do have a system in place, and nowadays every type of e-commerce system has that, you can just export in a CSV all the promo codes used, and then you just you see what is the sum of all of them, and you can see these brought in only 3, these brought in 100, and then who is actually influencing.
Well, Alessandro, I'm always interested in also learning from, the mistakes and the issues that other brands have had, because that's where you kind of really learn. And so I wanted to see, can you talk about any of the challenges and pitfalls that brands have had dealing with influencer marketing, and what are some things that a brand should avoid when dealing with influencer marketing?
Absolutely. First of all, do not put all the eggs in one basket. Do not pay only one influencer because you think it's going to be the right one. No. Even if it's not their fault, the post could be shadow banned, the post could be posted at the wrong time and not going viral for any reasons, right? So just diversify as you would do in everything. And secondly, I would say, especially for e-commerces, even if I said before that, of course, nowadays you can try. What I mean by that is that you shouldn't look at influencer marketing as I put $1 in, and then tomorrow or the same day I get $10 out. It doesn't work like that. Part of the life cycle of someone on social media is not to necessarily buy, it is to get inspiration, right? So maybe you might see an influencer talking about a product and then you don't buy, but then you buy because of a remarketing campaign. So you have to look at influencer marketing as a way to getting user-generated content that if you pay for media rights, you can use also in other distribution, right? You can put it on your website, you can maybe money on. And then also something that I say all the time, it is that apart from what is happening with the content per se, you also have the comments that are happening behind the post. And basically what is happening is that you're going to have user-generated content, big distribution, and comments that you can read. And reading the comments, you can actually have a real-time feedback of what people like and what they don't like. But don't look at it as just, I put $1 in, I'm going to get this the same day. It's going to be longer, but with the same price, you get just so much more at the same time. So it's 360 compared to the typical display ads where I put $1 in and then I can't wait to get this out. Maybe sometimes it's life cycle. So if you change the mindset, then you're going to be productive for you. If instead you start spending influencer marketing and be like, what is my money back? Oh, it's already tomorrow. Like, it's 24 hours. Why I'm not selling enough?
Right. A
terrible way for you to test influencer marketing and then be like, you know what, this doesn't work actually. Take time, be patient, and again, do your homework and finding the right people, track everything. If you do that properly, it's going to be, in my opinion, one of the best channels to sell. If you look at CPM, CPI, CPC, whatever it's going to be. But if you are not patient and you're like looking as it would be in display ads, the same day or tomorrow type of return, that's not what influencer marketing is.
That's really good to hear because, of course, with a lot of these marketing campaigns that brands do, I mean, obviously the bottom line is the brand wants sales. They want to get more revenue. They want to get a return on that investment. But you do have to, and when you're looking at influencer marketing and even other types of marketing, you do have to look at some of the ancillary benefits that are coming along with that. And you mentioned some great ones, the comments that you're getting, the engagements that the influencers are having with people. Who are they engaging with? Who aren't they engaging with? What are some of the things that people are resonating with in the communications? And so all of that stuff is, invaluable. You may not be able to pin a dollar amount on. Well, Alessandro, as we get ready to wrap things up, I wanted to see, I'm always interested in the future of things, the future of a lot of these marketing things, because as we know, things change so quickly. So I wanted to see how you think the future of e-commerce, and how do you see it, in the next 5-10 years? And are there any particular emerging trends or technologies that you see upcoming that a brand should be aware of?
Absolutely. So I've been studying what is happening in China and Indonesia for a few years now. And it's, out there is basically social commerce and live stream shopping. That's what happens there, right? So instead of having like an async approach as we have in the States and in Europe, so you post something and then I might see it 6 hours later, and then I have to click on a button, I have to go to a third-party website in an embedded browser. There's not going to have the same cookies that I have usually. There is not going to have the same pixels. It's going to be very chaotic. So as of now, I would say the flow a bit better. From I see something from the influencer that I follow to buying that product. But we're still kind of far away from what is happening in China and Indonesia. Many times people forget, but Indonesia is the fourth country by population, and that's why a lot of the times they do a lot of tests in Indonesia, right? And China will know how big it is. So I would say that overall, we also created a report, actually 2 reports on our website. One is called one is about social commerce, and one is about live stream shopping. We analyzed, basically asked questions to users and content creators. And there is still a lot of, I would say, skepticism when it comes to buying things online inside social media. So not like Amazon and well-known website, but on social media, there is still a detachment, I would say. So I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year because it was supposed to be last year, but things are still going to be slow. But most probably, if the people in the US try to make the link between influencers and social commerce better. Because imagine if I'm watching a video on TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, I see a product and then I can easily click on the link that is inside, or maybe it's popping up on the video. I click on it, I add it to cart, and then like how it happens right now in Instagram, once I put my credit card once, it's in the system together with my billing info. Look at smooth it is. Nowadays, the majority of people, as people listening in e-commerce, they know more than me, the majority of people leave the cart when they have to put their information of the credit card again. Because it's not like, it's in the other room, So I would say social commerce can really create this smooth experience, this frictionless experience, but we're not there yet. Like TikTok UK, they do have it, but it's still a smaller country compared to others. So I would say that the data is not there yet. And the last one, it's also live stream shopping. I would say live stream shopping, just like for people listening, it's it's this I would say this way for people to sell in real time And so maybe let's say you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram Live, and you can see people selling, and they usually do it either from their apartment or from a store, and they can show you, for example, this bag in different colors, and then people can text you in real time. Can I see them? Can I see that bag on your shoulder? Can I see that shoes? How do they go together with that skirt? Whatever. They can ask you that. That is the power of it. But let me tell you why I don't think that right now it's is that powerful in the US yet. I would say it is because of two reasons. One, we're missing really good hosts. Okay, an influencer can be a really good influencer, but not maybe be a host. A host has to be someone that can talk for free. You know, it's difficult. And the second part, I would say, it is also about the incentives. Right now, if you go on a live streaming, there are not enough incentives for people. Unless I'm gonna have a big discount or a drop collections, FOMO effect, right? That I want to buy in that moment. Why should I invest 1 hour of my time during the day to go on a live streaming? So up until we are not able to, on the social commerce side, maximize everything together and basically make it easier and smoother. And for live stream shopping, to make it an incentive for people to join, I don't see it working well in the US. If instead we're gonna add this fantastic opportunity for any e-commerce out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those are some great kind of glimpses into the future. As you mentioned, some of these things are, of course, more adopted in other countries, or I guess they've kind of taken off more in other countries, like the social commerce and the ability to sell. I think a lot of that, as far as like with the obstacles when somebody's trying to purchase from, let's just say an Instagram reel or a post.
So, and there are these integration already, especially with TikTok. Like you can integrate with different platforms for e-commerces, but still, I still think that the education side is missing. A lot of people don't know what is social commerce, and a lot of them don't know what is live stream shopping. So we still need the education on this.
Yeah, that is true, because there's also that trust factor. People trusting that, okay, they're not familiar with doing it. Is it safe?
Yes.
Is this really a scam? Is that really that brand selling it? So that's a whole other thing though as well. So you're right. It's going to take some time, but hopefully within the next, few years, it's going to improve. And I definitely see it happening for sure. As well as with the live stream. Amazon actually does it. They get influencers that, go through kind of a timeline of different products that they kind of go through, and then they're pitching them in real time. They're talking about how they're using them. They've kind of targeted, because you mentioned some key things there. You got to have some hosting skills to do that. They've targeted influencers that have done hosting, that may have done, of course, they have the budget to be able to compensate them for doing that. But, as a smaller brand, if you get the right person, it's still something that can definitely work. I see that for sure.
And just to add on that, like when you say Amazon, I guess what I still say is that Amazon Live, I think, is doing a good job, because you can easily see the products on the screen, and you can buy them without leaving the live streaming. But the main challenge is that you don't go on Amazon every day, but you go on TikTok and Instagram every day.
Right.
So basically, Amazon is great in their technology, but they don't have enough social activations, I would say.
That's true.
They are trying, but they are still missing that. While Instagram and TikTok, very good for social, not that good when it comes to buying products. So, they have, each of them have something, but not of them, they are both together.
Right. It's kind of like they both have to kind of merge in a way, but you're very right. When you're going to Amazon, you're already in mind of you trying to buy a product. You're not just going on there casually. You just, trying to talk to people or see what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. We usually go like, I have to buy these, and maybe you also buy related items.
Right.
It's very difficult that you go on Amazon. I mean, I know people that is their way to relax. They go on Amazon and they be like, I'm gonna spend money. And but yes, it's still missing that push. Right now, it's very poor, I would say, when it comes to Amazon.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. Well, this has been an awesome discussion, Alessandro. I really appreciate you coming on, and I learned a lot. I can go on talking about influencer marketing for hours and hours. It's a hot topic that is really exciting to me, and I know as you as well. So yeah, this has been a great conversation. But before we let you go, I always like to switch gears so our audience can get to know you just a little bit better. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact that you think we'd be interested to know.
I don't know if this is a fun fact, but because I spend all this time in front of a computer doing all these digital things and metrics, the things I love the most is cooking, and that is the way where I basically just remove myself from a screen and I go back to basic, right? So I would say that everyone that's my suggestion, advice. Everyone that works a lot of like in front of a computer, try to make it your fun things during the day, during the week. That is something where you don't have to be with a device. Because sometimes you will just realize how stressed you are just to be next to your phone. So what I do is that whenever I cook, I just throw in having a good time, and also sometimes breathing something that is different than a typical, day-to-day sort of operation that you're into. So cooking, I mean, like it's one of those things. I know that either you love it or hate it. It's one of those things it's difficult to have it in the mid. But that's the thing that I do. Like it's really relaxes me. It's very fun. You can learn about cultures and people because of food. So that's what I try to do when I'm not in front of the computer.
Okay, great. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a great piece of advice as well. No matter what it is you're doing, in your case, it's cooking. That's your way to kind of detach and unplug from all of this technology, because you have to do it. You have to do it throughout your life, because otherwise it can be really stressful, like you said, just by having your phone next to you, even if you're not even looking at it.
Notification, little so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna remove it. I'm gonna put like little do not disturb, and for the next hour or 2 hours I'm gonna be in the kitchen, and that's what I'm
gotcha. Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, Alessandro, thanks again for sharing that for sure. Lastly, before we do let you go, if you don't mind sharing the best way for our listeners and viewers to get a hold of you.
Watching, but I have a professional microphone for one reason, because we also podcast called the Influence Factor, and basically every Wednesday we go out with episodes about what is happening in the influencer marketing creator economy specifically, and we had very good clients and brands on LinkedIn and Reddit and OkCupid and many others. So if you're really into the topic, we go in detail with each different guest, again every Wednesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And then if we basically set everyone that send me a request, usually, because you never know in life. So if you want to add me there, I also Tuesday I post a newsletter about what is happening in the social media industry, and I'm quite active on LinkedIn. So that is everything about professional. And if instead you're interested in what I cook and what I do, Instagram is gonna be the main channel. But I would say that if you want to keep it professional and picking my brain for business things, the podcast called The Influence Factor, and my personal LinkedIn, just type my name, you're gonna find me there.
Okay, great. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. We'll definitely be sure to have the links to your website, the podcast, and the show notes there. And people can also connect with you, like you said, on LinkedIn as well as Instagram if they want to see what that last dish is that you cooked up. I'll be sure to check that out myself. Well, it's been awesome talking to you, Alessandro. Really appreciate our discussion. And we thank you for joining us today on the e-commerce marketing podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the e-commerce marketing podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level, but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.